Transformers, I saw you served, and thank you for correcting me on this, but you worked on the game, not the movie.
Yep.
What was your experience on the game? Because I know when the movie came out, they were currently going through the writer's strike, which is why the movie is kind of disjointed at times. Did you experience any difficulties because of the
about
strike?
that. So
Yeah.
I had worked at Treyarch, and I was working. So I went from working at Harmonix on Guitar Hero to Treyarch working on Bond. So I was a huge GoldenEye fan when I was like first getting into video games. So I was like, I cannot wait to work on the next Bond. And we shipped that. And they were making World at War at the same time. So that's how I wound up in the zombies maps or whatever. We can talk about that later. But once Bond was done, there was another studio in the network in the same like area called Luxaflux. They're now gone, but they were making Revenge of the Fallen. And they were like, we need production help post haste to do all of our audio production, all of our script and localization production, stuff like that. So I just, walked across the parking lot and started working on that project right after Bond. And there was like, it was actually a relatively smaller remit for me. So on Bond, I had been working on the entire game. And so for me, it was kind of like a fun, like focused thing, but they needed to cast a bunch of characters that hadn't been cast yet. We needed to record all of the dialogue. We needed to finish all the scripts. We just went in there and got it done. So I'll be honest with you. I was not a Transformers fan before I started. And in fact, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this because I was a Bond fan and I was obviously a music fan on Guitar Hero. So I was like able to understand the experience we were trying to give people. So like I firmly believe when you make a video game that you need to understand what the essence of the fantasy is. And then you just need to give that to a person over and over again, right? Like never stray. They showed up for the fantasy, give them what they came for. And I understood that for Guitar Hero and I understood that for Bond. I did not understand it for Transformers. Like, what is the fantasy of Transformers? I don't get it. And I would ask everyone I knew that loved Transformers. I'd be like, what's so cool about Transformers? And they'd be like, well, Elena, they're robots in disguise. And I'd be like, and, they'd be like, well, it's like a robot that turns into a truck. And I'm like, yeah, and I don't understand why it's cool. And they're like, well, sometimes you would get Transformers and they were hard to put together. Like there were all these things where I was like, I don't understand what the fantasy is. And it's driving me crazy. And I was grumpy about it. And we were like, we were crunching. I was working really long hours. And I had to go to a recording session at 9 a.m. in Burbank, which, when you're working late nights, 9 a.m. on I was going to have to brave the 405. I was just like, I hate this. I showed up. It was a recording session with Peter Cullen and Frank Welker.
Am I that low?
I'm the bad guy who got up on the wrong side of the bed.
Oh, gee, that was bad. I think we better stick with what we each do, right?
I know. Like, I didn't even really know who they were. I mean, I knew who they were because I was working on the project, but I didn't have the mental acuity at the time to understand why this was like a big deal. We had been working on getting the scripts together. We had been making last minute changes to the scripts. And I remember I got there and I hadn't even brushed my hair. I was just like, ugh. And we show up and Peter Cullen showed up and he was like the nicest man in the world. He walked in, he would introduce himself to everybody. And it was obviously his place that he liked to go to, this studio, which unfortunately I can't remember the name of. But he took the papers that we had given him with the script and he goes into the booth and he goes behind a screen. I can't see him anymore. And I hear him and then he starts to read the words that I had just typed up the night before. And I was like, oh my God, Optimus Prime is in the building. Oh my God, Optimus Prime is here right now. I am safe from anything that could ever possibly hurt me. If anything, I'm on my own. I have agency, but if I get in trouble, Optimus Prime is going to appear from nowhere and save me. And I am safe in the arms of Optimus Prime should I need to be. It all clicked in literally less than 10 seconds. Just hearing his voice, hearing Optimus Prime's I still get goosebumps. Just that feeling.
Yeah.
And then Frank Welker showed up an hour or two later and did his part, and it was the same thing all over again, right? I was like, oh my God, Megatron's here. And they were they were friends. They like have obviously been working together, and they're not just the voices of Optimus Prime and Megatron. They're like the voices of your childhood. They're my childhood, because I'm 100 years old. But like Dr. Claw and Eeyore.
Eeyore, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like all of these voices, and it was so powerful, and I literally turned me around overnight. Like then I became an insane fan. I still am. Like now, even to this day, if I see a trailer for something Transformers, I'm like, Bumblebee wouldn't do that. That's not like in the first Transformers movie when Bumblebee like pees on someone's head. I was like, Bumblebee would never. Bumblebee would never. So I became an instant fan, right? And like that's the power of those performances. And actually there's like a Netflix series, The Toys That Made Us. Have you seen that?
Yes, I love that. Yeah.
And
love
actually they really underscore how much Peter Cullen's performance and what he brought to it is what made Transformers gel, right? Because it was like this mix between Gundam stuff, these toys that were being made in Japan, and like this sort of like American hero ethic, and they like smushed in this beautiful way. And that's Peter Cullen, man. Like that, if that man is not making enough money.
There's so many lines that Peter delivers that is so
like,
good.
Well, that was what for me it was, and I still remember because it was the beginning of the the whole story for Revenge of the Fallen was about the Allspark or whatever, and they were So I remember he went behind the screen and he said, "Home, ours was once a place called Cybertron," and I was like. Tell me more.
I can listen to you for hours.
All day, right? And it just but also the two of them, Frank and Peter, and their long-standing collaboration. My cat wants to get in on the action, by the way. If you hear him meowing, it's because he wants to talk about this too. They have been working together for so long, and they understand the impact. They actually you can feel the weight of it every time they step into that vocal booth. They like know that it means something to somebody in this way that is like so powerfully awesome. The kindness of it is so, like, it's just so touching.